want, right, this idea to spread across all barriers. In terms of oppression, I think that's right, but the biggest battle right now is just to get people to see the state for what it is, right, that statism, but to do the reverse, to be on the personal level. Hey, what are you experiencing? What kind of oppression do you experience in your life? Is actually probably the better way to go, because then you can do steps up. It's incremental based on their personal experience, instead of that sort of Spock-like, I'm talking at you, how can you not see the truth? Take the Red Bull! You actually lead it through their own experiences. And, I hope year over year, we are getting more women. Look at this room, and I don't think it's just because it's a women's panel. It might not be 50-50 yet, but we're getting close to a good balance. I would love to see way more gays and lesbians because we know they know how to throw the party. Not to stereotype. Yes, Duchess. So I don't know, do you have something to add to that?
Well, we're talking about oppression. I say just scare them to death or shoot them in the face.
What happened to the nap on this pack?
No, just joking, naturally. But, for me, because I started something as silly as a party, I can't even tell you the number of people that have approached me and thanked me. And these are people who are not even necessarily out, or they felt that same thing I felt. Like, I am so alone in this. There's all these beautiful minds around me and like-minded people. They're not people like me. I don't feel a common denominator there with more gay and lesbian people. But now, oh my God, now there's gay people. There's bisexuals, transgenders,
African American immigrants.
Hey. But and people just come out of the woodwork to thank me for what I've done. So in some ways we are winning. Oh, they're there too.
Oh yeah, they're there.
Free food brings people, but I guess I don't know. I give away a lot.
I thought you didn't like the sandwich jokes though.
No, I order pizza. I'm really good at ordering pizza. I'm not good at making sandwiches.
I think as a woman, the biggest sort of oppression that I have experienced since becoming a liberty activist is within the movement. There's some really sour attitudes, and when I first became a leader, I was 23 years old. I was running the Ron Paul Grassroots headquarters in Kansas City, and we had some really, really, aggressive personalities that would take over meetings, would cause all these fights and arguments. And I didn't know what to do. I was young, which was kind of working against me when, my, quote, elders are arguing amongst each other. I didn't feel comfortable getting in the middle of it. And I was a girl, and I was, one of very few. And I think over the years I figured out that shitty attitudes just cannot be welcome in our movement if we want to bring in other people, period. So at meetings, I don't tolerate bad attitudes. I don't tolerate name-calling, bickering, drama. If it starts, I get up and walk out and I leave. And now that I've done enough leadership, I do get paid to facilitate meetings and consulting. And it's really embarrassing to the person causing drama when I get up and walk out and say, I'll take my paycheck and I'll see you at the next meeting, bye. And I leave. And it stops it right then. And it does not happen again, at least in my presence. So I think every woman in this room who has experienced this with the aggressive male personalities at our meetings, you need to feel empowered to stand up and say, stop, or I'm leaving. And it works. So that's my solution to that.
I was actually going to say a similar thing about the attitudes, and because I don't really think of it as oppression, I think of it more as a negative attitude. And I'd like to get rid of that. I don't know. I'll have to try that. I'm a little bit more passive. Oh, go ahead. Tell me something bad again. I'm just not going to get up and walk out. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Did I do something wrong?
That's why it perpetuates.
Yeah. Apparently that's not my area to fix it. But you're doing it. Awesome. But so I also have. I think it's an attitude, a negative attitude, and I think that that's something that we can all work on together, because we, just by communicating and being one-on-one and talking, because Carla's right, look at all the women in this room. There's certainly growing. And that's when people say that there aren't enough women voices, like I say, that they'll say, well, it's because there aren't enough women in the movement. And I'm looking around and I see there's plenty of women in the movement. And oh, yes, sorry.
I wanted to make a quick comment about kind of what Antonio said. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm gay. So I deal with a lot of black people, and I'm gay. So I deal with minorities, but I can't even use that word in this community because they're like, that's collectivist thinking. You can't talk about minorities. I'm almost not even allowed to acknowledge the fact that I'm a woman, that I'm gay, and that I live in a urban community, and I have to deal with a different approach to black people that are poor. It's a completely different approach. I just wanted to say that was on what he said, but I wanted to ask you guys, I'm a loud human personally, and I am working on being a loud human actively. How do you keep running around acting like a chicken and doing what you want from impacting, being able to make an impact and being able to be taken seriously, being able to be free? Because I'm working with Austin Peterson with the attitudes, by the way, and people I know, see, you don't like him, that's fine.
Because of the attitude.
But other people come to me because I'm working with him, because I can deal with his attitude, and get an attitude with me because I'm working with him. It's just, I feel like I think you guys know what I'm saying. So, if you guys could talk about, basically how to separate your personal freedom from your freedom activism, and how to not blend your personalities, maybe? Does that make sense? And basically the attitude, but you kind of addressed it, but it didn't get down that way.
Well, I think everybody should just work on being themselves, and that's why I think the best thing you can do is not separate.
I agree. I think living your life by example is the biggest inspiration to people. Your words are pretty meaningless. Your actions mean a lot. So don't worry about your words. Don't worry about running around like a chicken with your head cut off, because ultimately that doesn't work. Just be yourself and do what you're passionate about, and people are going to look at you and go, why is she so happy? What is she doing? How do I do that? How do I get that sort of freedom? And to touch on, cultural oppression, I do think that's a really big issue, and something that's going on down in Austin. Peaceful Streets Project is really involved with the east side of the community, and I think it's one of the only liberty groups in the nation that is really reaching out to those disenfranchised. So, there are young black kids who are murdered by the Austin Police Department every year. And where's the liberty movement with that? They're not out there, except now that the Peaceful Streets Project exists. Now it did evolve out of Antonio personally being oppressed and personally being, falsely accused of spitting in the face of an officer, but that happened because he was standing up for a woman who's being abused. So if we want to deal with oppression as individuals, if we see it happening, we need to stand up. If it's happening to us, we need to stand up, and we just need to walk the stinking walk, and we need to reach out to those who are oppressed and make sure that they know what their rights are and how they can stand up for themselves. So, that's my comment on that.
I'll be quick. I think Carla touched on it a little bit, that it is changing. I watched it from 2007 when I started working for Ron Paul as one of the only women on staff to now. It's changed much more rapidly than I expected. So I take heart. And I think also I'm encouraged by, and I don't know, however you feel about structured campaigns and so forth, but the Youth for Paul, particularly in 2012, did an incredible job of recruiting women. We had some of the brightest young women I've ever met. And it's funny because now I'm getting to be one of the old ones. I'm like a den mother. But I mean, 21-year-old women that are not dumb. So, outside of this circle, I meet people, younger people are just, but they found these men and women that are the future of what's happening, and they're brilliant, and they're diverse. I mean, it was the first time I saw an Indian person, from India. I'm from the South, so we always have to clarify. And then secondly, on what you were asking, my principle is to remember my why as opposed to what I'm doing. And the why for me is like, I want to enjoy my life more. I want to, my nieces and nephews to maybe live in a more free world, a free U.S. and that part, keeping that separate and saying, look, and when it's my why time, like I'm spending time with my family or whatever it is your why you care about liberty, that doesn't get intermingled with what you're doing as activism or remember to have fun, remember to enjoy your relationships, and sometimes being a good friend, a good daughter, a good whatever, that's what I am, I'm a friend and a daughter. And whatever, I lost it. But the point is keeping your why separate and remembering that it's less important to be perfect in your philosophy than it is to enjoy life. Like that's the whole point, right? We want to be free. Why? To enjoy life, enjoy our people. So that was my separation comment.
I know the poll you're talking about before Porcfest, and if my memory serves me correctly, I voted for 3 people who I'd like to see speak here. It was Hans Hoffa, Stephen Kinsella. I don't remember the third one. It was a male. No, it was no one troll. We did some troll answers. My question to you is, let's say next year before Porcfest there's an equal poll. Let's say for argument's sake I'm going to vote for 3 people. Putting everyone, you give everyone a 10 and one hot dog opportunities. If I'm going to vote for 3 people and I'm torn between a man and a woman, would you like me to be blind with respect to gender to the extent where I might vote for 3 men? Or should I be conscious of your issue and maybe do a little mental affirmative action? It seems like you're taking the results of this poll that 97% were men as evidence that there's discrimination. There might not be. If I own a law firm, I'm hiring the best lawyers I have. If it's 99% white men,
Those weren't even options, though.
What were on?
They're only...
It was odd, add your own.
No, you can add your own. You can add your own. We're adding this, we're adding like Hitler and stuff. Just fuck off. Ignoring that, like I added Hans Hoffa, I think Kinsella was right there, I voted for Kinsella. But it seems like I'm getting a mixed message from you. On the one hand, you're bemoaning that women are underrepresented and they're not looked at as just regular libertarians, they're looked at as commodified. And then you're having a panel about women and liberty movement. It seems, and I want to be convinced otherwise. I don't want to be the ass misogynist. I really don't. But I don't.
So much, you just have
No, I don't. It's not intentional. I honestly don't. If you convince me that there's not a sort of, it's good. It seems like, if I have a chess club and
Then give me the
How many people voted for Juanita Galroy?
She wasn't even on the fucking list.
Wendy and Mary, either way, I did vote for more men than women. I voted for more men than women.
Good. I didn't see it by the time I got through the other 97 men's names. I'm sorry, but I didn't see it.
Do you want me to treat women with kid gloves, or should I treat them with
No, you
kids
should not treat them with kid gloves. But I'm suggesting that maybe some men, just maybe sometimes, look at women other than just looking at them. They have brains. So I'm thrilled that these the young girls that she's talking about are coming into the liberty movement. I just want them to still be heard when they're 30 and when they're 40 and they're not wearing a bikini. That's all I'm saying. And if you don't want to, you just want to pay attention to the ones in bikinis, totally fine with me. I'll just try to make more panels where those women, other women, are available.
From my point of view, I'm going to listen to anyone who I think I can gain from it. If it happens to be 100% white men, then so be it. I don't have anything to apologize for. It is what it is. If I feel like I'm learning from someone, I'm going to listen to it.
I agree that if you feel like you're learning from someone, that's who you should listen to. I also think that as a movement, we need to do better about empowering strong females to be leaders. Now, there is an organization I passed around flyers called Lola. They're pretty DC-centric right now, but they are doing a lot of empowerment-style trainings, whether it's teaching women how to speak, public speaking in front of groups. Last year, we had 19 cities do concealed firearm training for women, and we found instructors who did those trainings for free. So there are things going on to empower women to be bigger leaders. And I would just say in your local circles, one thing you can do is encourage women who have, an articulate mind to maybe speak more in front of city council, et cetera, et cetera. We had a young woman in Austin, Texas, who was part of the leadership group in Texans for Accountable Government, but she didn't really do a lot of public speaking. And we did some internal surveys about each other, and everyone said, we want to hear Heather speak more. We want to hear Heather speak more. Next thing you know, this girl's in front of city council railing against the city hall. She's on the local news all over the place, and now she's the executive director of Texans for Accountable Government. So sometimes just encouraging your peers to step up will give them the guts to do it, and you will see more and more women step up and become those leaders that you're interested in speaking. So maybe the list will change next year, and it'll have 15 more women on it, and the next year, a dozen more, and it'll keep growing. But that's our responsibility as a movement, to empower each other and to give each other the courage to just get up and do it.
Well, I also think that when there are women getting up and saying, "Oh, stop it."
No, I'm not saying
Jack, I love you. Stop, Jack.
Take that, somebody.
Does she have a question? Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to address your question. I want to make fun of him because I love him. He actually said, when I said, "How do I get more people to the Women in Liberty panel?" He actually said to me, "Oh, that's easy. Just all be naked."
And I would say to that, be careful what you wish for. But later, I can't remember why I came up here, but somebody over at the end there said something, and I had this great response, and now I've forgotten what it was totally, but it was something about some oppression by men, or what offended us most by men, sort of thing. And what I thought was, and that men needed to be empowered to think better than they do, or something like that. And I thought, well, wow, here, great, in New Hampshire, we have a perfect opportunity. All these women here setting an example of what we do. I've gone through a lifetime of being with libertarians where all I'm doing is sitting around making some executive committee decision with a bunch of other white guys, and they asked me to go get coffee, right? And I do, and then if you do that enough times, then you become the president of the group. But what I really meant to say was, that's how life is for libertarians, or it was for me as I was growing up as a female or woman libertarian. Here, I don't have that at all. I have so much freedom here in New Hampshire because I can do exactly what I want to do. I don't have to go get coffee. And no, I live in, but there are so many women. That's what I think. We are role models. We who are here, you guys are my role models. And I hope all of us here, women included, feel we live our lives as role models. And the more the guys get to see these role models, probably the more they'll like them, I would think, because we're liberty people. No question.
That is exactly my point. It's not about collectivism. It's not about that thing. It's about elevating other women. And somebody else speak. It's 9 o'clock. Yeah, totally.
We'll let you go. I just want to say one thing. I think there's also on us as leaders in the movement to think about creating a body of work, writing more. I know for myself, making sure there's a reason why he wants to see Kinsella. It's because he's written some books, and he's stripped down.
I was told it's because I'm a misogynist just now.
Well, I'm sure you are, and that's okay. But I think the takeaway that people, particularly women, and I think this is really for all of us, is it's up to us, right? If you want to get heard, people have heard my story where I'm like, I used to throw up every time right before someone was going to put a microphone in my hand. I did not like public speaking. And I was just like, well, I'm going to challenge myself. Like, I want to grow. I want to grow every year. I want to grow every day. And so I would say the challenge to all of us is, remember, your story may resonate with one other person. So get your story out there. Do your YouTubes. Write your things. Do your blogs. I like to cook. I did a lot of cooking. And I was so happy when this year, instead of people being like, Queen Cool, people were like, can I come eat at your house one day, And it was like, wow, okay, food is a way to reach people, and it was not a message that I thought, would be my platform. And, and I can throw down with the IP lawyers. I can have that debate, and I want to. So the challenge that I'm giving myself is, start to write on the topics that we know a lot about. Because I think for a lot of guys, they're like, it's all like touchy-feely, and why am I really going to listen to them? Because what's really intellectual here, or what have I learned? I mean, I think what we've learned is that sometimes we communicate in a different way, and we want to, be heard. But then it's also, let's create bodies of work where people can go, this is what they stand for. I want to go listen to this woman because she knows everything about, childbirth and what's the word? Midwifery. It's a topic maybe not everyone wants to go to, but they'll learn. So we should do that as well. A challenge to women leaders. And if you're not a leader yet and you're like, hey, I want to be up there on stage in 5 years' time, start doing that and find your niche and build a platform without bikinis.
I'll be super brief. I gotta look at my daughter. We need to make events more family friendly. Okay? It's hard being a mom.
That's right. I just want to say, I don't think it's scheduled here until 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And so, if you all want to keep going.
Thank you.
All right, I have to run and go deal with my daughter. But seriously, we're getting young women into the movement, we're on call, etc., etc. Those women are going to start coupling off with Liberty Jews. We're all going to have babies. And this has been the most exhausting, miserable Porcfest for me because I'm constantly dealing with 2 children. So as a community, as we start reproducing, we need to be there for each other. Someone needs to step up and say,